All right, here we go, guys. It's we're right at a month. Right at a month,
The
and
math is about a month, exactly a month. Yes.
we are on the farm. It occurred to me that most of the people who will be listening to this, or many of them, will be packing their stuff. They're getting their gear ready. They're buying their food. We're actually to that point. Can you believe it? We're to the point now where it's time to start planning your menus and packing and putting your tents up to make sure they still work and figuring out how you're going to pack the car, who's going where, who's going what. This is the time, and Brian, I know you and I have talked about it. This is the time where I start losing sleep
Yeah. The
because
stress levels
the
pick up just
stress
a little
level
bit.
is high.
Yeah.
The idea of being in a tent, being in a porta potty. I don't stress so much about whether the tickets are going to work and they're actually going to let me in anymore. I used to stress over that kind of thing.
So did I, and it never was a problem.
Never was a, we always it was better than we could have imagined.
It's that classic anxiety, right? I'm over here freaking out over nothing.
Yeah.
I still freak out over that a little bit just because you never know when a formality, some kind of something can go through the cracks. But we've never had that. Maybe somebody in our group used to be much bigger years ago as far as our overall annual gathering. It's still a nice size, but it used to be a little bit bigger. And there used to be a little bit every now and again because that just happens. But, man,
Yeah.
to us, we've never had to deal with it. And every year I'm
Never
like,
had.
oh, my
Everybody-
God, oh, my God, oh, my God. Here we go. Like, you're in. Oh, okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's going to be fine. It's
Yeah.
going to be fine. So, and of course, Russ, on the other hand, who worries about absolutely nothing and shows up and everything's great.
Takes it as a
It always works
man.
out. Yeah. Show up on Tuesday, they let me right
You
in.
let him right. Yeah, he's like, we're like, you can't get there till Thursday. No, I'm going to go up Tuesday morning.
I'm going to
see
go
what
ahead and
happens.
go Tuesday.
And then
Yep.
we get a text 2 hours later, and he's got the van set up, so everything is great. So
Yeah.
we've got a lot to talk about. It's so funny. Every week we're like, wow, what are we gonna do? We got another show, and there's more than we can handle. And we had-
Usually, stuff pops up.
And we had something drop in our lap. Kevin Barnes is going to join us, and we talk quite a bit. Kevin is a Camp Reddaroo veteran, big part of the beer exchange, and they've created a Bonnaroo beer as they've done for the last couple of years, and we're going to talk about the design and the beer and how that works. So is a lot of fun. Looking forward to that, but there's also some new, and we're like I think I said, if I didn't, we're going to have Russ's picks for who he plans to see. But there's some news, right? A couple of things. Big news out of Atlanta.
Let's start.
You want to start there? Where you want to go?
Let's start with. I gotta show off the gift I got for Lord Taco in Huntsville, which will only take a minute. We'll do that on the tail end of this, maybe. But Music
Me?
Midtown has done the. In this case, they use the word hiatus, and it's not the most surprising thing in the world because that festival has kind of gone up and down since the early 2000s. But that festival where Shaky Knees is now, when Midtown first started to become one of the bigger festivals in the country, and it's a city fest, go home fest kind of deal. Shaky Knees has kind of taken over a lot of that footprint where that original Music Midtown was. And for me, before Bonnaroo, it was 2000, 2001, 2002. 3 years in a row, Midtown kind of turned into my annual music festival. I was 19, 20, 21 years old. Bonnaroo wasn't a thing yet. And I liked the music festival. We had one here in town that was nowhere near like what they did down there. And it became my year-round, not like this, but year-round anticipation because it was such a stacked lineup. And then it folded in early around 05, maybe, came back for a few years, had another hiccup, might have been the COVID year, and then again. And I believe they've had an identity crisis for the last 15 years. But from the early to late 90s and into the early 2000s, I'm Barry, you might be able to help me with these names. It was Alex and Peter, the promoters. I think it's Alex Cooley, maybe.
Yeah.
and Peter.
I don't remember him. I just
Conley,
remember
maybe?
Alex Cooley.
Anyway, those two dudes were legendary 80s, 90s music promoters. And then they got this crazy idea to do this in-town music festival. And you would have Lil Jon on one stage, and you'd have Bonnie Raitt on another stage. And you'd have, I wrote down just a few as I went through a few of these years, Al Green on another, John Mayer. These are ones I didn't see. Bob Dylan, Offspring, Kid Rock when he was becoming a monster at that time. Bone Thugs and Harmony, so many different genres, and they kind of built so big, it kind of crumbled because they put so much money into talent and into infrastructure, and they were ahead of their time at that time from kind of U.S. trying to make a comeback of music festivals that wasn't anywhere near what Bonnaroo designed themselves after. We've talked about that for years. It was the fish shows, it was the gathering, the camping thing.
Right, the European
model.
Correct.
But this was the more American model that they brought popularity to in the late 90s. And just the quick list I got from the 3 years, and this won't impress a hell of a lot of people, but to me it was a great run. And this is, remember, 22, 23 years ago where some of these artists were at the top of their games. Oasis, Stone Temple Pilots, Incubus, Black Crowes, Allman Brothers Band are just a few I named that I saw over those few years. And it was in 2002, first year of Bonnaroo, Music Midtown used to be in May, towards the end of May, if I remember right, but regardless, in May. And I'm broke as I could be at 21, 22 years old. I can't go to 2 music festivals in 2 weeks. Like, that's crazy talk. And I just got back from Music Midtown, and my friends were starting to whisper about this Bonnaroo thing. And I thought, well, I mean, I go to Midtown, and that's going to exhaust my disposable income. And then the excitement of this new idea forced me to go up and jump a fence and spend a day at Bonnaroo in the first year. And it changed my life from there in history. And I haven't been back to one of these music festivals in a city other than Shaky Knees and 1 or 2 other outliers since.
It's interesting to think back. The idea at that time was city festivals and diversity. It was the festivals, they tried to offer a little bit something for everybody, which was which seemed to make sense at the time. And
it did make sense. It just didn't work out long term monetarily.
Now
they couldn't fund it.
Correct.
They couldn't fund
looking
it.
Back,
yeah.
well, that and weather. Weather was so and still
it was closer. It was closer to the spring, so the weather, the rain.
A lot of those.
More,
Birmingham, I know, had a similar festival. Knoxville had a similar.
City stages in Birmingham.
Our own Riverbend was kind of the same.
Similar thing.
Different. In that, a little bit of everything.
Nashville had river stages.
Correct.
All these were kind of modeled the same way after each other, but they all took that Music Midtown model and started building around it that same way. Because at first it was a smash. I was looking at my tickets. They were $40 tickets for the whole weekend.
Right. That was the idea. A relatively inexpensive ticket, and you could see bands that you wouldn't normally, but you might get a country act in front of an Oasis or something, and at some level there was an appeal to that, and then Bonnaroo kind of fine-tuned everything by making it, as we talked about over and over and over, the lanes, making it more so that you know, if you were an Oasis fan, you had somebody to see throughout the day. You weren't shocked by Lil Wayne or
this was more about trying to impress you with the diversity.
Correct.
And while it might have in your head like that's neat, it didn't do as much for the festival itself once it got going. I mean, I didn't even highlight. I'll just a few more. 3 Doors Down. These are the 3 years I was there. Rat Dog, Georgia Satellites, Blues Traveler, Blue Oyster Cult, Arrested Development, Kansas, Loverboy, Night Ranger. You know, it just goes. Government Mule, Indigo Girls. I mean, the list doesn't stop of names, especially at the turn of the century, that were still really big names.
Right, and weather could crush them. Could absolutely. If you got 3 days of rain, they lost.
Saturday night in 2002 for Stone Temple Pilots, deluge.
Yeah,
and you're in the middle of downtown Atlanta, and you don't know which. We don't have cell phones, not ones that tell us where to go. And it's like, where the hell's the Marriott Marquis?
Right.
Oh, my God, we're screwed.
Right.
It was a different world.
So, yeah, different world, exactly. All right. So, what else happened this week?
ACL announced their lineup, which is really nice, but it is a lot of the same stuff playing everywhere
What's
else.
out there
but
right now?
It's curated well, and like we all would know, and in Austin, I've never been, but Austin is its own keep it weird, the original keep it weird kind of place, and so it's a little bit more to travel to Austin and spend some time there than just to see a great music lineup. But this one, quite solid. Tyler the Creator, Stapleton, Blink 182, Sturgill, Pretty Lights, Leon Bridges at the top. People have been screaming, I notice on a lot of socials, Reddit being primarily like, where's Foster the People been? Well, they're at your festival in Austin. For me, one I've been wondering for a while what happened to Catfish and the Bottlemen, a British band that's just raucous, loud, classic English rock. I've been wondering where they are. Well, they're at ACL. So it's a very nice. To me, it rivals Jazz Fest, which just wrapped up here in the last couple days.
That's what I would expect from an Austin City Limits type festival.
Too.
That's exactly what I would expect. Russ, you had in our show notes, you said you had sort of a celebrity encounter, and
what was that?
I assume you were the celebrity. So who did you meet?
Well, sorry. Got a little choked up there. I just wanted to touch briefly on Shaky Knees. We got a report from it live last week.
Looked fun.
It was super fun. Sunday, I didn't make it though. Checked out of the hotel early Sunday morning, went to the car to load my stuff up, and then realized I've got a dead battery in the car.
One of his 5 cars didn't work. Shocking.
Yeah, I know. So I had to call AAA, and they came out and got it jumped off. I wasn't sure if it was completely dead. They'll sell you a battery if you need one, but they managed to get me going, so I just decided I'm going to take that and just go on home.
Well, you got Friday and Saturday in. That's plenty.
Oh, yeah. I didn't feel too bad. I was looking forward to Sunday, and that was the plan. I was going to go put my stuff in the car and then walk to the festival, but I thought, I don't want to risk dead battery again. And I had a great Friday and Saturday, so I don't feel too bad. But Friday night, at Shaky Knees, I'm walking around in the crowd, and I walk past who I think is the lead singer from All Them Witches. I was just on the rail to see that show, and here he is. He's just out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the crowd, just by himself. And I wasn't sure at first. I thought, man, it looks like him. But I walked past, and then I turned around, and right as he's lighting up a cigarette, he looks at me, and I look at him.
And he said, "Are you Russ?
Nod.
Are you Russ?"
Well, he gives me
Are you that guy from that award-winning podcast?
He gives me a nod, and I give him a nod back, and I was like, okay, that's all I needed. So I didn't run up to him or anything. So
cool.
Yeah, glad he didn't make it too weird and be like, oh my God, that's Lord Taco. But,
I'm glad he didn't make it weird.
Glad he didn't make it weird. That's rich.
But yeah,
that's great. Yeah, he's telling people right now on the bus, man, I'm glad he didn't make it weird.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't come up and make it weird. I wouldn't know what to say to that guy.
That's so funny, especially what we talked about.
It reminded me of we talked about celebrity encounters, and I think it's neat because a lot of these big names, of course, they fly in, they get bussed in, they come in the back, they do their show, and then they're on the road. They go to the next thing. But a lot of these smaller acts, they're just as much fans as we are.
Absolutely.
And if they're in town, there's probably acts. We always ask, who are you excited to see here? And they always mention 2 or 3 other bands that they want to see.
Yeah.
So you never know who you'll run into at, just walking around just randomly at night.
Yeah, that's another big part of Bonnaroo, as we've learned doing this podcast, is a lot of the bands, like you just said, want to schedule a whole day, and if they're lucky, maybe an overnight, so that they can go see other acts.
You got a little downtime.
Yeah.
You just finish your set. You've got a few hours before you go back. Yeah, why not check
and
out?
I touched
on
it the other week. I mean, you would be shocked if you knew how many really well-known members of bands. Maybe not the lead singer that most people recognize immediately, but you'd be shocked how many of them are just hanging around right next to you. Yeah. That are just walking around in the area because that's what they do. They want to soak it all in too. And some of them are documented. Sometimes if someone finds out, they take they'll do a little video if it's sanctioned or even if it's not. But
well, I mean,
it happens all the time.
I'm thinking 3 examples. David Byrne, when he was at Bonnaroo, brought his bicycle and would run around on Production Road, going from stage to stage. We've heard. What was Sheryl Crow last year? Didn't she do like a video of her on skates?
Yeah, that one was, I think, more put together by somebody in the production team, but it was still...
Nobody bothered her. They didn't know who it was.
Well, I know, especially at the age of a lot of these people, but we talked about this a little bit, too, the other week, that, I mean, Sheryl Crow's been there a few years, and she's from Nashville, so she gets it. Right. By all intents, I mean, she ain't my friend. But by all intents, she loves just hanging out. And
my least favorite is I was with our campmates, Mike and Denson, and went to go to the bathroom or whatever, and came back, and they said, yeah, Larry David was just standing here drinking a glass of Chardonnay in a glass. He had literally a wine glass, and I was like, what? Who? No, yeah, he was right here.
That is a celebrity sighting that I would not go up and talk to. I
think they said hi.
I'm sure he would have been great if he but just knowing.
Yeah, it could go bad. It could go bad.
He could go bad.
Why are you bothering me?
If he had a perfect line in his head and he was in that mode, you could walk away thinking, boy, I look stupid. It wouldn't bother me not much. I still just talked to Larry David, so I ain't worried about it.
Apropos of nothing, my favorite Larry David is when he used to do stand-up, he apparently would walk out on stage sometime and look at the crowd and just say, nope, and leave.
Not feeling this one.
That's not feeling so funny. Nope.
I also want to mention it real quick. I had a dead battery. I called AAA. That is the best deal you can get as far as, yes. I mean, of course, I've got 5 shitty cars. At least once a year, I have to call AAA for something.
Well, I have 1 shitty car, and I am indebted to AAA.
All right, so there's your pro tip. There's your pro tip for the show. You guys are, especially if you're getting ready to make that 15-hour drive.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They came out in 15 minutes, and I was good to go. So if you're headed out on a long trip, AAA could be, just the best thing to have in your back pocket because you just never know.
So AAA, if you're listening, it's 423-667-7877. Your sponsorship opportunity.
Please sponsor me. I know. I need the AAA sponsorship.
Actually,
honestly.
It's funny since we're talking about that. 423-667-7877. We are still running our contest. Give us a call on that number and tell us what your Bonnaroo question, if you have a question, or your tip, or we thought of, and you'll understand why later. I'd really kind of like to hear what is your favorite piece of memorabilia? It doesn't have to be the one that's worth something the most. Just whatever. Could be a blade of grass that you were standing on when something special happened or whatever. I'd love to hear those stories.
Send a picture through the website email as well if you'd like it to be included into the show because the visuals always make it more fun.
Yeah, I love those
comments
kind of stories.
at thewhatpodcast.com.
I'm sorry, Russ. I keep talking over you. Go ahead.
Comments at thewhatpodcast.com if you want to send us a picture of your merch.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, memorabilia, whatever. We're putting together a prize packet. I reached out to the folks at C3 and going to see if they have some stuff in their closets that they'd like to get rid of as well. So we're going to put together something. So call and leave us that.
And so real quick before we get to Russ's picks, I didn't talk about this much last week because I was so torn inside. I didn't want to discuss it out loud. Neil Young in Huntsville And on my local podcast, it's the Orion Amphitheater, right? I said it 1,000 times wrong. It's the Orion Amphitheater.
Orion.
Okay?
I think you said Orion.
Orion.
I was
don't know.
screaming in my car. I was like,
I know.
Really?
I know. I knew at the time. I knew more afterwards. It was too late. Anyway, the Orion Amphitheater, yes, named after what was it, the star or the ship or the whatever the hell it was?
Yeah, just
Constellation.
Sometimes I can't connect dots quickly, all right? So anyway, forget that. Call it the First Bank America Amphitheater, whatever you're going to call it. It is absolutely beautiful and a wonderful place. And if I didn't think that, I'd just say it was pretty good. I had a fun time, and then I'd move along. It was fabulous.
What was it? I'm so sorry for coughing. For you guys that aren't in the South, the pollen right now is we're eating it. It's
it's
thick.
everywhere.
We're not breathing it, we're eating it. But what do you mean? I heard you say that on your podcast. I mean, is it the sight lines are great, the sound is great, the bathrooms? I mean,
sight lines? All of it.
Okay,
all of it. Sight lines, sound. The way it's positioned as far as sight lines from everywhere. I ventured to every corner from top, and it's not that big. It feels big, and it's not that big. And it was a joy, so much fun. Parking so easy. Everything to get to in Huntsville, you do have to drive just about everywhere you go, but it's very easy to get around. And I wanted to see Neil for the final time. I tried to talk myself out of it because of a lot of just personal life reasons, and Bonnaroo is almost here, and do I really need to travel to go do it? But the answer was yes, I did. And while it was Neil Young and Crazy Horse, and it was very sloppy. It was very sloppy.
I've seen some video.
But that music was sloppy in 1978. You know, it's grungy. It was grunge before grunge. It was this just loud, squealing guitars that sometimes ended up with amazing songs and sometimes not so much. Short set. I wish it was the final tour so I could just know that, because there doesn't need to be anymore.
Right.
But I was happy as I could be to be there. But when I got into town, I had all day. It was right after we got done recording early, which worked out beautifully. It was a beautiful day. So I just hit town. I want to see all about as much as I could get in Huntsville as I could. And I ended up downtown, and it turns out the brewery I ended up at, Russ, you sent me a picture of your bus parked right outside that exact brewery. It's brewery, tap room, restaurant, think that kind of thing in an old area of downtown. And it was called Green Bus Brewing?
Green Bus.
And I had a little bit of cash on me, and, it's, what do they call that, boy math or guy math or festival math? Well, that money's already gone. It's in my wallet. I've already spent it, right? So we might as well pick up a few things. And Russ, I got you a...
Oh, no way.
Oh, nice.
That's me.
Green Bus Brewing shirt.
Hop on.
Nice.
I love it.
That's
it's
awesome.
a large.
Thank
I
you.
think we're all in large, at least minimum T-shirt wearing world these days. So I'll get this to you. Maybe it won't be until I see you on the farm, but you have one of those now. I have one too. I got the baseball tee, so we're not going to be twins. We don't have the same one. Great branding, cool little place.
I agree.
Loved every bit
Yeah,
of
I drove
my
the
time
bus
in
down
Huntsville.
there.
Say that again.
Yeah,
sorry?
Huntsville's great. I drove the bus down there and went to the Green Bus Brewing Company. Tried to get free beer, because I've been advertising for you for 20 years with this Green Bus.
I have a green bus and I drink. Give me a free beer,
I know.
please.
Yeah, this exactly. This is my kind of place. They didn't go for it, but still a great brewery. Had a great time. Good beer, good food.
Nice.
That's
But
cool.
I know
I'm
you've
glad
been
you got to
there
go.
several times, Taco and Barry. I know you've
Nope.
been down to Huntsville. You have not?
I've been to Huntsville when I was a kid. We went to
Yeah,
the Space
same,
Center, so I
same for
haven't been
me,
back.
but same for me before that, and it was especially after, if you go back to when we were talking about these kinds of things several months ago with our mayor here, and we talked a lot about the mayor
Right.
and what they do. It was very obvious that conversation resonated more with me when I got to the town. There's nothing wrong with the city at all. Chattanooga is a way cooler city. I'll just tell you that right now for us locals. But it's neat in itself, and as Tim Mayor Kelly pointed out on our show, that amphitheater has been transformative And it absolutely has. And it's almost got a mixed use nature to it where it's got this extension of the kind of the back of it. I don't want to try to overly explain something you can't see, but you can do smaller events there. That's not 8,000, and you can have kind of this separate little area. Yeah,
that was nice.
They're bothering me here. You can do smaller events, yoga,
right.
From that small to anything, maybe even a little craft beer festival gathering in this kind of wooded, almost like a grove style feel behind this place. It's a gotta see to believe. And if you're skeptical and cynical like I am on things, and someone's like, "This is so cool, best thing ever," and like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Nice.
This is pretty darn close. The best thing ever.
All right.
From an amphitheater standpoint.
Yeah, that T-shirt's really cool. That's reminds me, I have something for you, Brian, and I've had it in my wallet forever. It was given to me by Daniel at the beer exchange. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I don't know if you can see what that is.
Oh, my gosh. Is that the 2016 year?
Pearl Jam photo pass for photography. Yeah.
Oh,
so I'll give that to you next time I see you.
That's great. That'll go right along with all the rest of the things that I didn't actually do that I can pretend like I did. I took photos at Pearl Jam.
Me too. I've had it in my wallet. I looked at it the other day, and I thought, man, I need to give that to Brian because that'll mean a whole lot more to you than I mean, it's cool to me. I'm especially glad to have gotten it from Daniel, but I know you're a big fan. So,
well, thank you. Yeah, that'd be great.
I got it for you.
Well, now I feel bad. I didn't get anything for you guys.
It's all right.
I didn't know we were doing gifts.
The gift exchange, the beer exchange, and the gift exchange.
All right. So
you want a beer? I got PBR.
Yeah, I know. All right, so here we go. We're going to transition to, again, the longest show we've ever done. But now we're going to go talk with Kevin Barnes, who's going to tell us about the beer exchange, which we just mentioned, and sort of the history of it, and a great new product that they have created. Guys, we say this every time. The Bonnaroo is just different. And it's because of things like this. Somebody has a dumb idea. I want to do a podcast. Okay, how can we help? I want to do Soberoo. Okay, how can we help? I think we want to create a beer that's Bonnaroo related with a label that's Bonnaroo related. Okay, how can we help? Right? I mean, it's nuts.
And not get it officially licensed necessarily, but get the underwriting that makes it, kosher, for lack of a better way to put it, within the festival ecosystem. It's very cool.
I mean, I've told this when Brad and I at lunch, said we need to do something at Bonnaroo with. My original was like a Facebook Live, and I mean his whole face went, nope, we need to do a podcast. And he called you, Russ, and he called Nick Turner, and by that Monday we had a website, we had a name. And he reached out, and I reached out to, again, the folks at AC Entertainment at that time, which was the co-founder, and said, we want to do a podcast. And they said, great. All good. You just can't use our name. You can't put Bonnaroo in your name, and you can't use our graphics because that's what they sell.
Yeah.
And we said, cool.
Yeah.
And so, point being, great idea. I mean, it helps them, obviously. We promote the event. Let's don't be... stupid. It benefits them, but they've been very helpful whenever I've needed, can you give me a contact for a band or whatever? They've been very helpful. So anyway, here we go with Kevin. Another great interview. Came out of nowhere. He reached out about 2 days ago and just texted me a picture of the beer can. And I was like, can you join us on a Sunday morning? And he said, yep, I'll be there. So,
love it.
It's the best. This community, man, it's so much fun. All right, so here we go with our interview with Kevin Barnes. Hey, man, it's been a minute. Great to see you. How are you?
I'm great, Barry. Good to see everybody. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we were just kind of laughing off air about the Bonnaroo environment and how it's sort of some things are planned and some things aren't. And like anything, the best events are usually the ones that are unplanned. So
I just posted on Twitter a few days ago, or X or whatever it is now, and I don't use it anymore. But I said, 10 years ago, I would have been packed up, everything already, everything planned. I'm on like year 10 and I've packed nothing at all. So it's just how it goes.
But you're starting to think about it, aren't you?
A little bit. It's getting closer. I need to start thinking about it a little harder.
Me too. So the reason Kevin is here is you've created again you can kind of see the beer cans lined up behind him. It's so cool. You've created a beer, right? Another beer. I don't even know where to start. So you've been involved in the beer exchange, right? That's part of why we know each other.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah, so I've been a part of Camp Reddaroo since 2015, and Camp Reddaroo hosts the annual Bonnaroo craft beer exchange. It started in 2014, and it's grown just exponentially. And when I became a part of Camp Reddaroo, I just instantly, obviously, became a part of that, and I just really latched onto it, made a lot of connections, and all of this started. I'm sure we'll get a little bit more in detail of, but it's been It's been a fun experience, and I got to do the podcast with you when you guys came in and did the live podcast with us a few years ago, and that was a blast. You guys kind of got to see the craziness up first.
A few years ago, that was about 5 years ago, wasn't it? It was pre-COVID.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
This was the beer that we gave them when they came in, the very first one.
I was gonna say I recognize that first one. I think I gifted that into a Bonnaroo prize pack that wasn't involved with a contest on an official show, and I don't think I have that beer, but it's a great looking label. I love that. It's a Mad Tea Party. I guess.
The Mad Tea Party, yeah.
Yeah, I recognize that one.
So we should for you guys that listen in your car while you're driving and you're not on YouTube, this is going to be kind of a visual bit. So I don't know how we're going to manage that other than to tell you. You might want to go to YouTube or whatever, because part of what we're going to be talking about is the cans that you guys have created, because they're really, really cool. So there's visuals is my point. But, it's also about the whole, this is, for us, the Bonnaroo experience. This, somebody has a stupid idea and they raise their hand, and it's like, next thing you know,
it's not so stupid. It's not so stupid anymore.
It's not so stupid anymore.
Yeah.
The funniest thing is people always ask how we get here. And just to preface a little bit, so we started, the idea of having our own beer was never really a real idea. It was one of those kind of things, like we were doing this big thing that brought all these people from the beer community in together. We were like, how funny would it be if we had our own beer? But how do you get there, right? We're a bunch of misfits on vacation on a rural farm in Tennessee. Like, how do you even get there? But funny enough, and we are kind of have this little circle of friends in this Bonnaroo community. Repeat just happened to release a collaboration beer for Glaze, an album that they had coming out. Or I think it was the Surf Rock Shandy Candy is the one that they had at the time. Was their collaboration with Pontoon Brewing out of Sandy Springs, Georgia. They were promoting and coming to Bonnaroo, and we met Sean from Pontoon Brewing. He came to our beer exchange, and that's how it kind of starts, and it literally just kind of went crazy. And our whole idea was Pontoon was kind of a startup brewery at that time, and it was a really cool way to get them into the market, get their kind of name out there. We were like, we have this big expansive community that's from everywhere, so they really didn't have a reason to attach themselves to us. We weren't getting any monetary. We didn't have a partnership like that. It was really just to drive business and kind of get their name out there. And it just kind of became a thing, and, it just kind of took off.
It's so funny you mentioned repeat. So for people who are longtime listeners of the show, you will know that Kristen and Jared created for us our theme music. The intro that you hear is repeat. Who we met at Bonnaroo. I don't even remember how now.
16 or 17.
Yeah, do you remember, Russ? How did we meet? I just know that year it was like every time I rounded a corner, I nearly knocked Kristen over.
Yeah,
You know,
they made the rounds that year. They were immersed in all of it and loved every bit of it from my vantage point.
They were the first band that came to camp. That's what it was.
They
came to Camp
Yeah.
Nut Butter to do an interview. I think Brad must have hooked them up with the label. They came to Nut Butter and did an interview, and then we just kept running into them, become great friends. They're awesome.
They were they did exactly what any up and coming band should do. They, like they said, they took every opportunity. They played our Wednesday night pre-party that year. That was kind of and then they got Rolling Stones did a write-up on them like after they played their set that year. Like, what a cool little crescendo, but that's what you do. And yeah, that was the kind of big kind of platform for us to get to where we are. And it's funny, Jared and Kristen are amazing. We love them so much. We appreciate all they did for us.
It's so much part of the story. Just, I think I remember now saying the key thing for them was say yes. Whatever the question is, say yes. Somebody wants you to come to your camp and do a stupid interview on a stupid podcast, say yes. And they did. And,
eventually, you got to start saying no in your career.
And they have now.
But in the early days like that, it is very advantageous for anybody up and coming for whatever it is you're trying to push to say yes. Absolutely. That's pretty cool.
All right. So let's get into it. You've created, you guys, so bring us up to date, I guess, real quick. Why are you on here? What happened between that? That was a crazy sort of, you didn't plan it, but now you've created a Bonnaroo beer, right? Or a Bonnaroo label, and it's so cool looking. Again, for those of you who are listening and not looking, you might want to go back and figure out how to look, because there's a lot of cool stuff on these in the graphics.
Yeah, everything that we wanted to do when we really did the beer, obviously we wanted to get the beer into the community and try to get, the flavor profiles were amazing. On the first one was like a tea, like it was kind of like a blueberry tea kind of thing, and then it was all kind of stayed in like the sour community. But really, the like you said, it kind of became the label thing. And then when we started thinking, how do we outdo last year's? The first one we actually did, the Mad Tea Party, we did a social media contest. We allowed people to submit designs. So this one was actually designed by Danielle Sage, who was a Camp Reddaroo camper at the time. It was a fan-submitted design, and then it was turned into a label art, which was awesome. And then the next year's Pontoon had actually brought in an in-house artist that was doing a lot of their can art. And if you've ever seen Pontoon Bruins can, they do really kind of silly, not silly, but they just kind of incorporate their little otter mascot and like these different little like otter scenes. I mean, if you say, I don't want to give away, you really should go look at them because they're really cool. But that's kind of how we were like, how do we pull the community and put them into a can? Because that's kind of what people are going to gravitate to. So the first year we did, we were like, we're going to do like an intergalactic space rave for this. How do we get incorporated? So we turned the Roo bus into basically like the Magic School Bus and sent it into space with all Rufus and all his alien friends. And then it got canceled, and this one didn't get to go to the community. But it was a really cool label art, but we're like, okay, how do we really top that one next year? So I love 90s movies, and the Back to the Ritual one was kind of my brain design of, we're going back to Bonnaroo after being gone a few years, and we wanted to. I really, really loved the Roo bus idea from the one. So it's like, how do we incorporate all that? Okay, let's turn the Roo bus into the DeLorean. Anyway, let's go back to Roo that way. And then this last final one is my favorite one that I kind of wanted to really push back into the community about the craft beer exchange. So we turned the craft beer exchange into a beer label art. So And so we're here today to announce that we are doing a fifth beer. This year, we're actually doing a collaboration with Common John Brewery, locally right there in Manchester. And it's called Rainbows and Waterfalls, off of a play off of Pretty Lights, who's probably one of the most anticipated headliners of Bonnaroo this year.
Well, I was going to ask, because it's one thing to come up with a cool label, and that is a big percentage of the battle for any product that you're trying to move, even if it's just in an exchange. I have a feeling some of this over the years has turned into want to be a little bit more than that. It's one thing to come with a cool label, but as they would say in the industry, the liquid. How is the liquid in these cans of beer? Are they different styles every year? Are they tweaked with? Are they similar? And who formulates this beer? Is there a once upon a time home brewing aficionado who's built up over the years, or is it coming from seasoned veteran brewers and craft brewers?
Yeah, so I think Tacos had a few of them. The tastes they're always a hit. I don't think we've had one that's ever not been a hit. And it's always kind of been an experimental fruited sour or Berliner. It's kind of always been our profile into this last year. We kind of went like a shandy, kind of like a citrus lemonade type beer,
which is a summertime beer, yeah.
Yeah, we've always wanted to make them crushable. Unfortunately, they're quite dangerous. But we've always wanted to. We realized that we're in June and we don't want a heavy beer. So, but going to your question about who brews it, so with Pontoon, obviously they have their master brewers, and then they myself and the marketing team and the brew team kind of all get together. We start throwing ideas out there about flavor profiles. They kind of came up with the first one on their own. And then we kind of, from there is when we kind of started collaborating back and forth of what we would like to see. And then they would tell us kind of what was seasonal fruits, how long things would process. I got to learn a lot about brewing beer inside the process, about just how they do different things. In Pontoon, the flavor profiles are all their master brewers and all of them. I just give them my ideas. I just think up stuff. But it really just kind of became a collaborative thing. But all the glory and all the props go to Pontoon and their brewer team there.
Because when you started this, you said around 15, the craft brew skyrocket ship of popularity and sales was really taking off at that time. I want to say it was around 13, 14, 15. And it's leveled out. It's still got its place. Trajectory is kind of apex, and it's kind of where it's at. And so, yeah, these guys and gals that do this brewery stuff, even if it's on a smaller level, they're not trying to make pretty cans. They're trying to make incredible beer to get that great label to go along with it in a commemorative kind of way. Certainly is a very cool angle to it. I see all your Dogs championship gear. I'm not a fan of the Dogs, but I appreciate all the background. So are these Georgia-based breweries for the most part, or has this reached out more to the more areas of the South and beyond?
Funny enough, this wasn't planned. I'm just a massive Georgia fan, but Pontoon is.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah, I didn't mean to have my Georgia Dogs back to back. I didn't mean for that.
But Pontoon Brewery is located in Sandy Springs, Georgia. So
okay.
The connection there is strong because their marketing manager is also a big Georgia fan. So we just kind of got along, I guess. So yeah, Common John Brewing here in Manchester, Tennessee. We met the connection with him. We just kind of struck up a friendship and just kind of Pontoon started going through some legal issues with a distributor. They had to shut down for a little bit, and we didn't know where that was going to go, and so we didn't want to add any extra stress to them by trying to get them to do another year. Although I think they really wanted to, and I know Sean really wanted to. But we had the connection with Common John, and we were like, hey, we really think it'd be something cool if we keep this local. I think there's a bigger opportunity, and there has been some of the cool things that we're doing this year. I think it's going to really blow people's minds. Number one, I probably shouldn't give this away, but the beer is going to be actually sold inside of Bonnaroo, which has never happened before. And I'm very happy for Common John it's not going to be distributed inside of the beer tents because that's the major sponsor stuff. But inside the brewer's brew house or brew tent or whatever it is, you'll actually be able to get the beer inside of Bonnaroo, which we're obviously, we would love to see it sold throughout Bonnaroo, but just being able to get in there is a big win for Common John.
That's a crack in the door open kind of moment. and that's certainly something to be proud of. Another just more technical question when it comes to the beer itself and state lines being very vital to alcohol distribution and really just driving across the line with it in your car. There are still many laws of, where the beer comes from, who makes it, what territory it comes from, and whether it is even illegal to take much around with you with travel. Alcohol percentages has a lot to do with that. Distributors has a lot to do with that. Have you had any issues with these beers over the last, we're damn near getting into 10 years if you're talking 15 when it started. Has there been anybody messing with you? Because this could be one where they could just turn their head and not pay attention, but we know certain law enforcement across the state will find any reason to make a couple of bucks on a citation. Have you had any issues with moving beer from state to state, city to city, territory to territory, or has it been pretty simple?
Have you done any Smoking the Bandit? I think is what he's asking.
It is a small version of Smoking the Bandit. Yes, it kind of is.
So I will tell you, I'm not going to pretend like I understand any of the beer distributing legal stuff.
I'm in the industry and I have trouble understanding half of it. Go ahead.
What I want to ask about is the can. Kevin, the graphics. That's what I was sitting here looking at. There's so many. They used to call them Easter eggs. There's so many cool things. Rufus riding a unicorn 2 different ways. Tell us about everything that's in there. I mean, there's the it looks like the witch stage. I mean, there's the tents. There's all kinds of things going on.
Yeah. So we really wanted to kind of focus on kind of the main essence of Bonnaroo. So we kind of incorporated the big what stage. So as you kind of turn around the can, it also to note these are printed cans. These aren't labels. I'm doing I should have wrote it down. There's a company that is actually donating their services to print these cans on our behalf for this community for all the beers that are completely donated by Common John. So big shout out. I'll have to give you guys the name. I can't think it off the top of my head, but it's another company that Common John has a relationship with. But the can art, as you turn it, it's going to look like you're kind of submersed in the middle of the what stage. And then as you kind of get deeper into some of the details in the far bottom right-hand corner, as you're going to hold a beer once you get one, is Camp Reddaroo's actual logo this year. The theme of Camp Reddaroo is kind of this cowboy unicorn. So Rufus is riding on a little unicorn down there. And then you'll be able to kind of see it closer once you have a beer can, but you'll actually kind of see some of the old label art that's being held up into the crowd. So we kind of put some little Easter eggs as a nod to some of the past label arts that we've had.
Yeah, I mean, lots of rainbows. The fountain clearly is an inspiration, right? The mushroom fountain, a lot of mushrooms. I'm looking at it all here. It's the Ferris wheel. It's
and
really cool
for collectors to have that the non-sticker label and to have a more embedded label onto the can. For a collector of containers, full or empty, that's a really neat addition, because that Mad Tea Party is the one I owned, and that is the sticker on the can. Not that it takes away from the beauty of the overall look, but as a collector, you want that one piece, right? That's got the artwork on the can or on the bottle or whatever. So that's really neat too.
And just one thing, and I don't know if they will want or care, but Bonnaroo has fully approved this label art, by the way. So we, Corey up in C3 marketing, they know exactly what we're doing. We put it in front of them, and they understand that we're using their likeness, and really they don't have to give us permission to use.
No, they don't. That's important. I was going to say.
Yeah,
I was about to say when you got done talking. Sorry to interrupt. As you said it exactly. They could totally quash this. They could come in and say, guys, I don't think so.
Yeah. We need our cut.
Yeah, where's the licensing on this?
Right.
They could totally do that, and so many would, and it's just another nod to the coolness of Bonnaroo.
That's right.
They're not going to make any more money because they cease and desist on your cool label. it's only going to make their brand cooler, and they get that.
And they come to our beer exchange. They know who we are.
They do. I think
yeah.
I think Brad and Corey probably both started there like the rest of us.
Yeah,
right? I remember their story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like every year I try to make sure that we get something to them. And last year I made sure that Corey got like a whole 4-pack of the beer, and he sent me a really nice note afterwards and just acknowledging that like we love the label art as much as anybody else does, but they just have obligations to big sponsors and all that stuff, and they want to support us, and they have 100% supported us on the ground at the beer exchange. They allow us to bring in beer quantities that really we're not supposed to, but they understand that we're not doing it in a malicious intent. Everything's being done in a very honest intent. They're just kind of allowing us to do it without really breaking any rules.
That's such a great point. And this is the reason I want to talk to you guys. We've said it so many times. It doesn't feel like somebody has their hand in my wallet. It's just a cool thing, right? I want one of these. I want a 4-pack. When you're going to be selling it in Century, you're going to be selling the cans, right? That you're not bringing kegs.
I do not believe the cans are going to be sold inside. I think it's going to be all. I think they set up taps in there.
The liquid,
what they do,
as Bryan calls it. All right, that's what I want.
I think you have to buy the tickets or whatever to get the pour out.
All right, before we go, it made me think. I want to ask the three of you, what is your most prized Bonnaroo memorabilia? What's the one thing you have that is the most important to you? And I don't mean necessarily the most valuable. What's the one thing that means the most to you?
For me, I think it's that can of beer from a couple of years ago, the one with the Rubus in space. I think that was. I've still got one in my fridge. I didn't want to open it, but it's still there.
Yeah,
I've
got
the one.
3.
Yeah,
I'm looking at 3 of them over on my shelf.
Yeah, I don't have that one.
Yeah.
I don't have that one.
I'll give you one.
This was from the canceled year. This was
well, there
if
you go.
If you have one of these, this was the hurricane year. So if you have one of
That's
these,
right.
you are a very rare collectors, because unless you were at the mini farm, you probably didn't get one.
I have.
That's where
3
I got
cans.
it. Was the mini farm.
I don't have liquid in them. I emptied. I have 3 of them. I'll give you one, Bryan.
Thank you.
Also,
go ahead, Lord.
I love that it's space themed because look what Bonnaroo did right after. They made everything space themed. Outeroo is now it's got a whole everything is space and planets and solar systems, and so I think y'all were kind of ahead on the game as far as the space theme there with the can.
We let Bonnaroo take our sauce all the time. Like us and Rubus and Rooshoot, we had the first campground plaza before there was a plaza. We had the craft beer exchange event in the campground because that's where it was birthed from. It was, we want to do something for people in the campground because there was no activities in the campground, as you guys, unless you guys ventured into the campground for your little cushiness over there in VIP.
I do.
Fair.
Kevin,
I'll take it. That's fair.
But there was nothing in the campgrounds. And so when the beer exchange started in 2014, 15, those years, it was the only kind of real outside in the campground event, and unless there was Renegade pop-up sets. And so, it was, we Bonnaroo then came out with these plazas afterward. We're like, great, we love. And then they started letting people come in on Tuesdays for pre-parties, and we're like, great, we used to do that too. So we'll let them have their sauce on that. We'll let them take it. We love them.
To finish the round table of memorabilia of my favorite, I actually have and this is away from what you guys do, but it's the only thing that pops in my head as my favorite is the Manchester Times from June 22nd, I think, 2002, with the snarled interstates on the front cover of the Manchester Times in a frame in my living room. That's probably my favorite memorabilia. That's the original 2002 year. Now, I have probably every piece of paper or newspaper that should probably just line bird cages at this point. But that one is probably my favorite if we're just quickly coming up with with favorites over the years, which will not be included in the prize pack that we put together later. That one's staying right here.
That's part of what made me think of it. Kevin, do you have a favorite piece?
I have a whole shelf of memorabilia because I do love kind of collecting memorabilia and trinkets, but actually my favorite one is something I actually gave myself. So I have a Bonnaroo tattoo that's right here that I got. I got after 2015. I actually saw somebody had made a graffiti on one of the concrete things, and it's a Billy Joel logo. This is the time to remember because it will not last forever. And it was. I just, was going through a real rough time in my life. And that year, Bonnaroo was kind of a real kind of rediscovery for me. So I kind of just, commemorated it by, every time I'm kind of having a hard time, I just kind of look down and say, no matter what you're going through, this is the time to remember because time's not a renewable source. It's not going to last forever.
Again, for people who are first-time listeners to this show, we do this every week. I mean, you got to ask yourself, why in the hell is there a podcast about Bonnaroo every week?
Every single week.
And you just answered it, Kevin. I mean, this thing, man, it hits, right? It has hit all of us.
Yeah.
It's not just an event that we go do 1 week in June. It's an attitude that we live with, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It carries you through life, and it kind of, everybody that loves music always will tell you, because we all agree, music will meet you where you are. And that's kind of the catalyst for a lot of these relationships, and Bonnaroo kind of brings us together because it kind of meets you where you are. And then you just might meet this community, and then you realize what this community really is about and why it's so protected by a lot of us, and why of us been doing it for 10 straight years, and why there's a podcast about it, and why there's these groups that, have created 501c profit, like the Roo Shoot and the Parachute people. It's a lifestyle, really. It becomes so ingrained in your life, and that's why I love it so much.
It turns into its own little ethos, its own little ecosystem of a year-round thing, and I hear you on that 100%. And I wondered, these guys, I've been kind of around while these guys have been doing this show for all these years, and I was just like, my God, how do you do this? How do you do it all the time, over and over again? And the more I do it, the more I, which I already knew, I already knew a lot of that, and it's like nothing else. This is what we were going back talking about, which is the pricing when we're talking about the specialness of things. To me, there's nothing more special than this event, and it brings out the best in a lot of creativity, a lot of originality, and a lot of coolness. And the fact that a major, even underneath Live Nation, which is the devil to all of us, but even within that umbrella, they still allow discretion within
to do something cool.
The inner workings of the. It's kind of like the ownership of a major sports team or some kind of conglomerate who often doesn't get out of the way. Sometimes do, and in this case, they do get out of the way of that creativity, and it's really cool.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's so cool and important. We can get Bryan Stone up on a Sunday morning at 9:00,
and I'm actually doing all right today. I'm actually doing all right. It wasn't the worst thing ever.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I don't drink these days. We've talked about it on the show plenty recently. But even when I did, which when you guys first started this and when we were there 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't drink that kind of beer. The different styles, the venturous craft beer, I would, and I did at the time we came by. But so it's been a while since I've been in that world of consuming that kind of beverages. But at that, I remember getting there because we were on. This was one of those. I was Taco. You weren't. I don't think. No, maybe you were there that year. But I was doing a bunch of the technical crap that you do now, and I'm not nearly as good at it. So thank you for doing it. And I had to lug all this crap all over. And this was before we could condense our equipment into like this much size. It was more like this much size.
It was a bunch.
And we had to drag this shit all across and I'm like, where are we going? And Brad, co-founder of the show, who me and him get along, but you wouldn't know better if you didn't know us. And I'm cussing him on the golf cart. This is bullshit. Where are we going? Why are we doing this? I got, there's 1,000 things I could be doing. And then we say, even while we're setting up, I'm like, okay, everybody looks cool here, but still, what are we doing? And then we sit down, we do the show, we start going through the beers. I didn't bring any to exchange. Nobody cared. They said, help yourself. That's where my Mad Tea Party came from. And I was just,
it's pretty cool.
This is wild. This is so cool. I don't want to even drink any of these, even though I would drink motor oil at that point if it got me high. And
great.
Man, it was so much fun.
Yeah, that was a really weird year. They moved us, and I was given directions to the old place, and because we didn't know that we were going to get moved, and no cell service at the time. It was a strange time back then.
So
they got cell service now.
Let's we're talking around it. Tell everybody, Kevin, the beer exchange. It's become okay. So
kind of again, the rules, if you will.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, again, we have to remind ourselves that not everybody has been every year like we have.
Yeah.
So there a lot of new people are going to come. So let's describe the beer exchange. It's well, I'll start. So Bonnaroo is Centeroo, and there are 10 stages. That's the music. That's what you see on the lineup. That's what you see on the poster. That's what everybody tends to focus on. But as we're talking about today, again, just to bring you up to speed, there's a lot that happens in your camping area. Bonnaroo, again, is a camping festival. It's not a city festival where you're in a hotel, you walk up, you see a show, and you leave. You're camping, so it's 24 hours. There's a lot of stuff going on. And Kevin, you alluded to it earlier. Back in the day, there wasn't much else going on other than whatever you were doing within your own campsite. And so this one guy, right, reached out to somebody and said, hey, I'm bringing, a couple of cases of beer. And I'll swap you one for one. And he ended up, as if I remember right, 8 hours late. But it's morphed into this event, so much so that the Bonnaroo organizers said, hey, this cool thing is happening. And no kidding. I mean, you're not overstating. Not only did it create this idea of other events, but this idea of things happening out in the plazas, right? Am I?
Yeah.
All right. So you take it from there.
Yeah. So Camp Reddaroo, started in 2012 when was Bonnaroo's first year of starting in group camp. And that's kind of where the original idea of the beer exchange was, because we were in group camping. We had this kind of designated spot that we could do something. And it was, wherever you're coming from, bring a beer from your city. And it was kind of the idea then bring a couple beers. Wherever you're from, you'll bring a couple beers and we'll all meet kind of at this designated time and exchange beers.
Love that. Sorry, man, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just, there's so many great and not so great beers made all over the country, and to be able to sample other cities' jewels and not so jewels of beers, either way, what a cool way. Not just, hey, bring a couple extra natural lights while you're here so we can all have, so we don't run out.
I don't need a Budweiser from Iowa.
It's not there to make sure we all have ample amount of beers to drink at once. It's there to collect and swap stories, brewery stories, city stories. Where does that name come from? Where does the lineage of that come from? It's a history lesson in some ways. That's
we got to point out, though, Russ does bring Pabst from Ringgold and Chattanooga and East Ridge. That's
especially designed for Rossville Boulevard.
That's his contribution. PBRs,
and I'm looking for a West Coast PBR or like a Midwest. So.
And so, and just to continue, so it really just it kind of became like an icebreaker after that first year. It just kind of became like because Camp Reddaroo was kind of a real kind of burn ethos, like a burn style ethos of kind of the community brings and provides, and that's kind of where the idea started of the bring one kind of trade. And then it just kind of became a bigger icebreaker, and then it kind of became an event. And then we were like, okay, people started bringing 6-packs and 12-packs. And you're right. People started talking about where they're from. And, hey, if you come next year, can you get this brewery? Because I've heard really good things about this brewery over here. And you're close by, or you're going to be passing through, because not everybody gets the opportunity to travel. And so this community really started flourishing of, hey, if you're coming from here, this, and then, oh, I'm going to be here. And then when people would travel, they would like find a local brewery and like post on our social media page of where they were in that city having that beer. And it became a community thing. And then every year, and I think 2015, we were at like 500-ish people attending, and that was big. And the Tennessean did a write-up on us, a little video write-up on us that year, which was the coolest thing for us because it was the Tennessean. We're in Tennessee. That was a big deal. And I think that was also the first year that Bonnaroo kind of came over and they started putting us in some of their promotional stuff. And then we started just asking for more, like, hey, we want to have speaker access. This is growing out of control. Can we get this beer? Can we bring it in the back gate? Because we're bringing a lot of quantity of beer. And they just kind of started saying yes more. And then we just showed them that we're capable of not screwing it up, not doing more than we're asking for, just because we've always wanted to be respectful of Bonnaroo, just knowing that they didn't have to let us do this.
No, they didn't.
They
didn't.
They could have shut it down. They didn't have to let us bring in beer. I don't even know if I should really be saying that, but it's not even like we're not doing anything wrong. They're just allowing us to say, hey, like, we're going to escort you in so we know exactly what you have. So, we know that you're not trying to hide it, push. Because that's the thing, we didn't want to hide it from them that these are the things that we wanted to do.
That's another thing. They could have totally said no to any of this, especially bringing the product on. And back to me talking about different cities and the stories of the beers. A lot of these beers struggle. I mean, there's small pop-up breweries everywhere. I mean, now it's dime a dozen. There's jokes about it. And getting distribution for them is the biggest struggle in their business model. Not making necessarily the good beer, the good label. That's sometimes the easy part. Same thing I talk about with things like we do here with recorded stuff and podcasts and radio work. The part of doing it is the easiest part. The part of getting it out there is what's so difficult. And for them to allow that to happen, now you're going to have people who are going to be saying, I'm going to Pittsburgh next year. Didn't we drink a beer from Pittsburgh? That I was talking to some guy at Camp Reddaroo. I mean, I'm just picking a city out of the east of the Mississippi. That's strong, free branding for your beer making venture, not the generalized you, and it just continues to go beyond cool. I know that I've said that like 3 times, but It's just in big business, marketing business, conglomerate business, they usually tell the little guy to get missing, man. We don't have time for your for your little thing over there. And that's testament to Bonnaroo.
And we encouraged it. Like, we actually, a few years, we found people that worked at breweries that came to our event as just a camper, and then the next year they're like, oh, I work for this brewery. And so they started
handing
bringing
out cards.
They started bringing swag. And then I met a couple that worked here in Birmingham in a brewery, and they were like, oh, we got this new release we're going to bring. And so they like basically brought, like you said, free marketing and put it into the barrel and allowed people to grab it. And there's your free marketing. And they were doing it purposely. We were encouraging it. And the same thing, we allowed people that bring like large quantities from, if they had a favorite brewery that they just knew that wanted to give them stuff, we allowed them like larger tables outside the kind of common trading areas to kind of do bigger trading, like 12 packs at a time with larger people that brought more quantities. So it kind of, there's like these maybe a little trading posts going on of large quantity or 1-to-1 kind of beer. So it really did kind of have free marketing, and this is exactly what we wanted to promote. It was all about the beer. It was the beer, all the stuff that we do with our beer is kind of an extra, but the big thing's the beer exchange. It's about the community and the beer community and just being able to interact with everybody that kind of has some of the same interests, but also get slammed on a Tennessee hot day in the summer.
I think that's kind of the key. I mean, it couldn't be any other product, or maybe it could be, but craft beer has that sort of Bonnaroo vibe to it, right? It's that independent, it's
grassroots
cool,
independent thing.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's a thought starter, it's a conversation starter.
Right.
it really, especially with the people who are really into it and the ones that are not so much into it, it's a common ground that most people like a good beer and like to talk about it and like to talk about the bad beers too. You know,
That's right.
it's such a, you can be sitting around talking to strangers and become instant friends because you both like a Hefeweizen that your best friends tell you you're crazy for liking,
Right.
and that kind
one's
of stuff.
from Pittsburgh, as you said, and that one's from the West Coast. So
Yeah.
It really blew our mind in 2022 when Bonnaroo decided to put us on the official lineup, and that was a cool thing for us because
I
that
hope
was
you've gotten that in a frame somewhere. I bet that looks pretty cool.
I do. I have the original, and I do have a picture of the sign when they had it out in the plaza. And
That's
It was just it was a real cool thing for especially a lot of us that had been a part of. I wasn't there for the first year in 2014. I was there in 15, but I've grown with it. A lot of us have grown with it. Mitchell, Carrie Jackson, who was kind of the originator of kind of the planner. I wasn't the originator. This is all a idea of everybody in the community. Yeah, I kind of spearheaded. I kind of helped with the design. I was kind of the liaison to the brewery, kind of because I run a business in my day-to-day job and I do this kind of marketing stuff. So it's just natural for me to kind of be the voice, but I'm not everything. It's our whole Bonnaroo leadership group. There's that core group that's been there since 15. Then we're all kind of starting to die off now. I say die off, leaving, getting married, having kids.
Yeah.
But
Getting older.
I get it, man. Life
we want to pass. We just want to pass it on and keep it going for the next generation of Bonnaroonians.
All right, got to ask you because we ask everybody. First of all, thank you for giving up so much of your time, and I'm so glad you reached out the other day. It was like I was just sitting around, and I get this text. Here's our beer can. I'm like, oh man, you got to come on, and you immediately said yes. I appreciate that. But who you looking forward to seeing?
Oh, I mean, no doubt. Look at our can art. It's Pretty Lights. I mean, I think everybody, if you're not excited about Pretty Lights and if you don't know Pretty Lights, please just go. No matter what genre you like, everybody can like Pretty Lights because you can dance, you can groove, you can feel good.
Agreed.
Pretty Lights is where
agreed.
it's at.
All right, man. Kevin, guys, you got anything else for Kevin?
Yeah. Do you have? When is the beer exchange this year? Are you on the schedule? What times and how can we get there?
Yep. So it will 100% be on the official Bonnaroo schedule. I also believe that Bonnaroo is going to do a push notification out as well. I think they did that last year.
Cool.
If you have the app, they'll do the push notifications of the beer exchange. So it's going to be every year Friday morning, 11 a.m. I know that's early for some people.
Little early, but
early. Hey, pop it top at 11 a.m. We're not. I mean, we're in those judgment.
Can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
I'm about to say the most overused one ever. You can't do it all day without the morning. My only one quickly, finally, would just be for people who might be lurkers, we'll call them, or maybe just kind of see what is that over there. Am I welcome? Is it okay if I show up? I don't have a beer to exchange. That's not a big sticking point with you guys a whole lot, right? If somebody wants to try a beer, they see. I mean, if they're come over there hoarding all your beers, we got a different conversation. But from my vantage point that year, it did look to be like a very much come as you are and feel no intimidation by what you see over here because this is a very welcoming place.
Yep. Some people find out the day of, whether they have the app notification or whatever. But if you plan to come, or if you're just a lurker, if you get the notification on the day of, come. Yeah, everybody can come, no matter if you have beer or not. Obviously, we encourage you to bring beer, because if you have one, at least 1-to-1 to exchange with the other. It's a bring one, take one kind of trade system. So if you bring 6, don't take 10, please. But if you see something you really like, we're not going to discourage you because we want you to enjoy the experience. If you don't have beer to bring, or you only have something in your camp, bring it. It's better than anything, or just kind of wait till some of the traders kind of clear out. There'll always kind of be beer left in the cooler, in the kind of the ice coolers that we have. And as kind of people start clearing out, if you didn't bring something but you want to try, you can still grab in and nobody's going to think anything of it. It's about coming together. You're going to have a good experience, talk with everybody. It's in the group camping plaza. I know it doesn't have a number or pod anymore. So on the map, I think it's the Galactic Giddy Up Plaza.
Look for the huge crowd. Russ, what are you missing? Which states are you missing? The PBR. I'm putting it out there for you right now. What do you need somebody to come from where?
Oh, all over. I don't know. I should probably get a map at some point.
Yeah, I thought you had like a pin cushion.
Wherever you're from, bring a PBR.
All right,
I'll
Kevin.
bring you one too.
Kevin, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Look forward to see you in a month. Can you guys believe it?
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come on. And yeah, I can't wait to see you guys. I know Lord Taco, I saw him briefly at Shaky Knees last week, but
that's right.
I think we were at Weezer maybe, and he just kind of went off somewhere, but I didn't see you on Sunday. But it was good to see you briefly.
Great to see you too. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, man. All right, that was a lot of fun, right? I mean, that's amazing. I love talking to people like Kevin. And tattoo. That's commitment now. I don't have a tattoo, Bonnaroo tattoo. I'm not that committed.
I
guess I'm
would
not either.
in my earlier ages. I don't know if I would anymore. But never say never.
No, I just again, it's that whole, this is how much this festival means to us all. So, all right. So the real reason, the intended reason for this particular episode was Lord Taco's picks.
This is my day. Yeah.
This is your
Hanging
day.
on. We're hanging on, man. We
I
gotta
you
know.
Can't wait.
It's
We
all
gotta
about
know.
you.
Gotta know.
What's
All right.
going to get you out of the bus to actually go hear some music?
Let's see. Well, first of all, talking about the beer exchange, we got to go back, right?
Oh, yeah.
This year we have to make
we're going.
the appearance. We're going, yeah. Because remember, I think, Barry, you and I we tried to go, 2 years ago? And the girl on the golf cart took us out there, and as soon as we got there, they announced storm's coming.
That
It's
was
time
when
to
the
shelter in
shutdown.
place.
I was outside getting ice, as a matter of fact, and I got stuck outside the grounds with 40 pounds of ice, and that was about. I guess that was about that same time.
It was
Barry and I literally just got off the cart, and I think we opened a beer and started talking.
It was like,
and
time to
then-
go.
Yeah.
Time to go.
It was so cool because, and I wish I could remember her name because she was there last year too, and I'm hoping she's there this year. Remember, she was so cool.
Yeah.
Because you and I gave her a couple of beers and said, here's how this works, and she was like, "This is amazing. This is so cool." She was in the mix, and
yeah, I think this was her first year at Bonnaroo.
Correct.
She worked for AC, but she was just soaking it all in. She's like, I can't believe all this is happening.
Yeah.
She didn't know there was a beer exchange.
she didn't know what it was.
Yeah, when
didn't
she got there,
understand.
she's like, "Is it cool if I hang out with y'all?" And we're like, "Absolutely," And then, of course, it turns out that we had to go because she had to get back to base, and she was our ride. So we had
And
no
she
choice.
probably,
We had to flee.
she's moving people around. Part of her job is to transport people around the festival, and it there very
That's
well
right.
could have been just, is it bad form for me to kind of tag along with what you guys are doing rather than just be the chauffeur? And of course, we're going to be like,
Yeah.
you got 5 other friends, bring them too.
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring that up, Russ, because that's a good inside baseball thing. Because we were all starting to hear there's a storm coming. She got the call on her walkie that said, "You need to get back now." It wasn't.
Yeah, that was our first.
Yeah.
We knew about it before the announcement.
We knew about it because she was like, where are you? You need to get back to base because there's a bad storm coming."
Or you're going to get stuck wherever you are.
Yeah.
Right.
And we got back. And for people who were there that year, that was the year of the flying easy up tents.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, they were all over. You'd look up and here goes a tent. Looked like the Wicked Witch flying.
One of
through
those
the sky.
classic cases that I have done many times. I'll get around to staking that later.
Yeah,
Let's go.
well-
Let's hurry up. We're missing stuff. I'll do that later on.
was-
Bad move.
that was
A
a
rookie move made 17 years into of regularly attending.
Yeah,
So
it's like the comedian Ron White. It's not the 80-mile-an-hour wind. It's the Volkswagen in it
it's
that'll
not
kill you.
that
Yeah.
the wind is blowing. It's what the wind is blowing.
Exactly. So anyway, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah. Sorry to derail. No, but let's jump into our picks.
So you're going to start
we're gonna
Thursday,
start-
go day by day, right?
Starting Thursday, day by day. Yeah, I'm gonna follow what you did, and mine a little different. I don't necessarily listen to all these. I know a lot of people play the playlists and want to listen to every band. Sometimes I would rather just show up and just be surprised. So a lot of these I necessarily haven't heard, but I've been recommended. So like I know if I hear 2 or 3 people mention a band, okay, I probably need to go check them out.
Yeah.
And that first one for me is 2 o'clock on Thursday. I want to check out Eggy, which is apparently going to be like a jam band kind of.
Yeah, that's
there's not
very
a lot of
early.
jam
I think they're the
bands that-
first one on the 10th that day.
They're literally, I think, the first act, which is another reason, it's like the first band you're going to see.
Sure.
So, and then I don't really have much else Thursday, but I do want to go 8:15 to the Heavy on that tent. That's another one. I think Pondo was a call-in with a recommendation for that.
Yep.
And that's gonna, I guess, lead me into the Pretty Lights because they're the ones opening the What stage on Thursday, which is a big deal. And
Can't say enough how excited I am about that. Just that stage open at all is making me excited.
Right.
Absolutely. And we just talked to Kevin Barnes, and that's part of the can design is Pretty Lights. So there's something to this. I got to check it out. Yeah.
Boy, that's going to get the Pretty Light. I didn't even think about that. The Pretty Lights fans are going to eat that can of beer up, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'll stay for the whole thing. We'll see. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'll do a walk by. I end up glued there the whole set, If not, I also do want to go check out Geese and Neil Francis over at that tent.
So we line up on that.
Yeah, some of these, we will line up. So, but that's really all I got Thursday.
That's a big Thursday in my book.
Do we?
Well, there's a big gap.
Can I jump in just because some news? Maybe Fisher might be canceling because his wife is is pregnant.
I did read that.
Huh?
Whoa,
his wife is pregnant. That. Yeah. He's canceled several shows, but he hasn't canceled Bonnaroo yet. And from what I understand, he doesn't want to cancel Bonnaroo.
Because without Pretty Lights, Fisher is the story of Thursday as far as name recognition.
Right.
Especially in that genre, but I had not heard that one.
Yeah, his wife is late pregnancy, and I don't. I mean, it's such a personal thing, but having some issues, right? I mean, so that it's not just that she's going to have a baby. Am I wrong, Russ?
Yeah.
Is that what you're reading?
No, I think you're right. There might be some complications. Yeah. I don't know for sure. I don't know that they've said, but yeah.
Reality sets in, man. You got to be with your family, so
Yeah, and baby's not really something you can schedule.
Yeah, they do what they want to do. Trust me.
They do what they want to do. So I think, fingers crossed he makes it because I know a lot of people are excited to see Fisher.
Yeah, definitely.
But that could be up in the air. And at this late in the game, I don't know if they could get a replacement this quickly.
Yeah, I'm betting they do
for that spot.
I'm not worried about that so much but yeah, it that is for fans. That's kind of a big deal. So.
Yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep. All right, go ahead.
All right, let's go to Friday. Friday, I want to see Imdu Mokhtar.
Yeah.
I am pretty jazzed about this. If you've listened to it, it's, he's a very talented guitarist from, where's he from again? Somewhere in...
He ain't from around here. That's all I can guess.
No, he ain't say African continent somewhere.
Somewhere in Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that name on here many times.
Well, the legend. He's the one that released the schedule early.
He's the one that leaked the lineup accidentally.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's always one of those.
And we always joke that he'll never play Bonnaroo again after that faux pas, but apparently not. Apparently they're cool. So
he became. Everybody loves him.
yeah, he's kind of legendary. It's brilliant, really. After that. Going into the evening, I definitely want to see Khruangbin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Khruangbin.
But, Khruangbin, we've had him on the show, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then get into my first real conflict, which is I do want to see Interpol, but I also want to see Joe Russo's Almost Dead. And there's a little bit of overlap there. I just saw Interpol at Shaky Knees, and they were great, and I want to see them again. But, if I have to miss a little Interpol for J-Rad, I could.
Yeah, so your weigh-in scale goes a little different since you just saw them. You're going to be able to see J-Rad as many times as you want to see him for the next 10 years, probably.
Also, a good
but it won't be a Bonnaroo necessarily. So
yeah,
I see
that's
that.
True.
That balance of decision is probably, I would guess, hovering kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. At this point, I'm still leaning more Interpol, but it could change.
See,
Never know
It's
that
all
Grateful
very
Dead. You
fluid.
never know when that Grateful Dead itch starts going. You just got to go
Exactly.
get it scratched.
no Maggie Rogers for you.
No, I mean I could be talked into it. That's another thing about this is just because I have them on the list doesn't mean there's blind spots. There's stuff that I'm not considering, and I definitely take when people are like, oh, why aren't you going to see that or that? I'm like,
I might.
maybe I should.
Maybe.
That's how I saw Royal Blood last week at Shaky Knees. Evan Bonnaroo was like, "Are you going to Royal Blood?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't planned on it." And he's like, "Oh, you got to." And that
guess
was
I
another
am
one
now.
I ended up. I guess I am now. If you say so. And I ended up staying the whole set. We had a great time. So
What's Post
that's
Malone
another
do
thing.
for you as a headliner, Taco?
I do want to see Post Malone
Yeah.
just because I saw him in 2019. It was a good, and I was surprised by that show then. It was good. And I think he's, we've talked about it. He's kind of in a different direction now. He's, as far as his collaborations with other artists and stuff, he's doing a lot more like country and.
It does seem to be that no one really knows what Post
No one really
Malone they're
knows.
going to get, which is a very cool Bonnaroo vibe, too. It's like,
Yep.
what's he going to do?
Yeah,
That mystery,
so I
that mysteriousness.
Yeah, so I definitely want to see that just for the surprise aspect. Like, what's he gonna do? So,
I just
and
made a
then,
note
you know,
of something
me-
you said about somebody coming up and saying, "Hey, are you going to go to this one?" That's going to be probably a heavy part of my picks next week. That whole
Good
sort of
point. Yeah.
attitude of just being adaptable. So
be adaptable, and I can be talked into.
Yep.
Like you said, Maggie Rogers hadn't really considered it, but sure, why not?
Yep. I can't wait.
But the one I won't miss for Friday and probably all weekend, obviously, is the Mars Volta.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart that they put him right up against T-Pain and
Thundercat,
what
right?
was the other? And Thundercat. Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to see all of them. But no, I won't miss the Mars Volta for sure. One of my favorites, and excited to see him at Shaky Knees 2 years ago. So I'll be there for the whole thing. Maybe on the rail. I don't know.
Nice.
But I think that closes out Friday. Saturday, I think this is another one that we got recommended early in the day is Half Moon Run. And I think, Bryan, you said you were going to that one, or?
I don't remember if that was on my official highlighted list or not. I couldn't find it here this morning, but that's certainly a possibility.
We've talked about him before. Then later on Saturday, I got to go see Brittany Howard. Brad would kill me if I didn't see his girl. But Brittany Howard going into John Baptiste, I think is going to be a pretty good transition.
That's
too.
a pretty good set, right? That's
Yeah.
And Brittany's on the Witch, right? So you could shoot right over, back
Right.
and forth, no
Yeah.
problem.
Brittany's on. Yeah, this is going from which to the what for Brittany and John. So, yeah, that'll be easy.
Pop in
Yeah,
there,
I think
get
that's
a
gonna be a
little,
pretty good
Bloody Mary or whatever. Walk across.
Yeah.
I can see it. Okay.
And then let's talk about this. Neither of you we haven't really talked about this at all on the show. The emo super jam with Dashboard Confessional.
Yeah, emo's not my thing. Shocking, right? I could see how that could be pretty interesting, though. I don't have the time schedule. I'm looking at the overall schedule. They're on
That's
a tent
8:15
at
to
like
10:15.
Yeah, doesn't it
this
have some?
tent.
Doesn't it overlap with some good stuff?
Cage,
It
cigarettes,
does, yeah.
Renee
There you go.
Rapp.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's right. Which and what on Saturday, back and forth, are doing a lot for me.
Yeah.
So that's right. That does conflict with that a lot.
Yeah, and we've gotten excited about super jams in the past and talked about going to them. I've never really ended up staying long for any of them.
I've been to
be
one.
honest.
I've been to
In 20
several,
years.
and there's only
One.
it was the
Yeah.
Billy Idol Billy Idol, Hall and Oates. What was the dude's John Oates?
Yeah, I believe it was John.
And Brittany Howard. That was the best one. And
I went to
Larry
one-
Graham. Larry Graham, the bass player, who literally invented the slap bass. That one was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I went to one that and it usually was just schedule conflicts, was nothing else. And they used to do the Super Jam late every night.
Correct.
Midnight.
It was almost
midnight.
It was almost
true.
like
Yeah.
a wind down. It was like,
Kind of.
oh my, we just saw the superstar. Now let's go sit in the grass and listen to people we love play music they love. And then
Yeah, the one year
Right.
I went was in 2018, so it was September or October that Tom Petty died in 17, and in the 2018 Super Jam was a Tom Petty jam, which
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm a big Petty guy. I can't remember who was the music director and who was all involved with that, and that's the one that I went to, and I enjoyed it. And it was late. It was late. It was like 12:30 at night, and that's the main reason I've missed those Super Jams, is because at night all bets are off.
So, but to your point, 8:30 on what is that? Friday,
Saturday.
Saturday,
Saturday,
Emo
8:15 to
Super Jam.
yeah.
Is that? I mean, is that right? Is that
That's right.
does that hit?
Dashboard Confessional.
Is that
Super
you mean
Jam.
is that right? Is that hit? Is that a good idea? Is
Yeah,
that the best
8:30
spot?
Oh,
on
yeah,
a
I
Saturday
don't-
night with an.
My answer is no. No, it's
I think
not.
no. Yeah.
It's not, because I could find myself, because I was a young person when all that stuff was really exploding. I was surprise, I'm stuck 10 years behind in my life in every 10-year stretch of my life. And so when that emo stuff was going on, I was still, hanging on to that grunge thing from 10 years before.
Right.
And emo never hit well with me. But I can appreciate what it did and the genre and the importance of that music for that period of time. Well, let's say 90 to 93 or 90 2000 to 2003 or 4, where that was really the most popular music out there.
Again, I'm
Well,
trying to
you
put
know-
myself on the farm at 8:30 on Saturday night with Renee Rapp right before it, Cage the Elephant opposite, and
Cigarettes After
Sex opposite.
You're not going to the 80s. You're
and
not going
Knock
to the Jam.
2 and White Fang. probably not gonna hit the. I'm
And
sorry,
what is it?
Russ, I'm not trying to hijack
Well-
your picks. Just
Hosted
interesting.
by Taking Back Sunday, right? They're the emo band of the year. Right?
Dashboard Confessional.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Dashboard, even better.
That's
or
what I'm
worse.
saying. And me, I'm going to be there. There's going to be those dashboard.
Sorry. Got that one way wrong.
So Russ will be sitting in a chair on stage by himself, with having the best time of his life.
No, if you'll let me finish though.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You know me, the dashboard moms. They're going to be there.
There we go.
That's my man.
At
Now
least gotta
the
show
truth
for
comes
that.
out, and now I'm a
Yeah.
little more intrigued.
My man.
Right. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna watch the whole thing. The Cage and then Cigarettes After Sex. I think it's probably going to be the better choice if we're being honest.
And you can do all three. You're savvy enough. You can weave your way in and out of that.
That's right. Maybe I'll pick up a dashboard mom and then we'll go over to Cage the Elephant. I don't know.
Crazier shit's happen.
yeah. Yeah, but then let's see. The next thing for me, I think, what did I have down here? Well, the Garden. Wait, are they on Saturday?
Yeah,
Did I get that? Yes, 9:30. Okay.
right next door.
Yeah, right next door. That's probably going to be one of the heavier acts, I think, which there's not a lot of on this lineup. And then, Red Hot Chili Peppers, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Brian. I'm not a huge fan, but I think I'll at least
I'm
check
sure
out a
I'll
little
end
bit.
up that way too. But
well, the only
Yeah.
well, again, I don't want to jump on it's your pick, but and I'm a huge fan, as you guys know, have been since the beginning. But this is with Frusciante, right? He's back.
Yeah, and that's really the main reason I want to
Yeah.
that matters.
check them out.
It
He's
matters.
That
important.
does matter.
He's a real important member of that band.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the Halo days, but Frusciante replaced him, and so yeah, I'll see it.
And he's played with the Mars Volta. He's played with a bunch of acts,
Yeah.
and
He's a great guitar
so
player.
yeah, I think that's probably going to make it worth going to that show.
It's so weird.
then this,
I mean, how do you guys feel?
yeah.
I can't watch him because that drummer looks just like Will Ferrell. It's just
It
so
bothers me
freaky
too.
to me.
Yeah.
It's pretty uncanny.
That's
It really is.
that's not the reason to like or dislike a band, but I can't get over it. All right, moving on.
Moving on. Yeah, I don't know how much of this Pretty Lights Sunrise set I'm gonna make.
Yeah,
That's
For me, none.
pretty
I think
late.
we went over that. But
and that's a pretty stacked Saturday. So I don't think I'm gonna commit to that.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see.
It's a long day.
Is that what
Stranger
stage
things have
again?
happened. No, that's gonna be on the other. They did the what?
Okay, so he's gonna
on
be on
Thursday.
that tent. Yeah.
But then he'll be in.
That makes
then
more
he'll be in
sense.
the
That
other.
makes more
That's gonna
sense.
be
Yeah.
crazy. That is
It's gonna be huge.
Crazy.
Yeah. So let's just let's move to Sunday then. This will be the last day.
All right.
I'm with you, Brian. I want to see the beaches. And mostly I want to see Brian watch the beaches because I know he's going to be.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And the good news, it was such a short 45-minute set that it almost can't be disappointing because it's just going to be fast, ferocious. All their songs are fast anyway. It'll be a blink, and that show will be over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run through
We're
the
going to
whole
have to get a
catalog and
coalition, man. We're going to get Patrick from Sobaru, you,
Yeah.
me, Barry. We'll get the Velans in with us. We'll get a whole crew going. Maybe
like
or
it.
maybe not. Or maybe I'll fly solo. We'll see.
No, we'll all be there.
That's a good point, too, because a lot of these, you know, who you see the show with makes the difference. And I
can.
know a lot of these,
Can ruin it,
sometimes
too.
you're like, it could also ruin it. But sometimes you're like, no, let's all meet up and let's go to one show. You know, if we don't see each other the rest of the time.
Yeah, let's do
But
one.
let's go to this one show. So I think, always pick one of those, maybe one a day or just at least one for the weekend.
I
That,
like it.
You know, everyone's going to be there.
I like it.
And that's going to
That'll be early on a Sunday, so should have no issues being able to maneuver how we want to. And
That's a
gonna
really
be
good. That's a really good point, especially with our group. And you mentioned the Velans who we had on the show a couple of weeks ago. That's Kai and Joe and Tara. Great people to see a show with. They love this as much as we do.
Yeah, they're vets.
That's a good pick. That's a good pull right there.
And then my next one on Sunday is another one we haven't really talked about much. Bad, Bad, Not Good. Do you know much about these?
Other than just the last 4 months of talking about different things on the lineup, but no, I couldn't tell you any more than the band. I think it's a
Mostly
good band name.
Instrumental. Yeah, it's a good band name. Good band. Mostly instrumental. They're kind of jazz-ish. I know they've kind of reworked a lot of songs. They've done a lot of collabs with a bunch of like hip hop artists and stuff. It's different. It's interesting. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Goth Babe on The Witch. I think of course the name lured me in, but as we found out,
It's not a chick.
not really goth nor a babe.
Yeah, it's not goth or a babe. And
Yeah.
that on the witch stage is intriguing. And when I was making my list, I wanted to put that one on there, but my Sunday's so loaded I didn't. And after we did a little research on this artist, he's a very interesting guy, and I bet it'll be a big crowd at that witch stage.
I think it will be
for that show.
I think that's one not to miss Sunday. Isbell, of course, I got to see Jason Isbell. And, my Sunday's kind of lighter than yours, I think, because I don't really have much else. The Fred Again show, I guess I'll see. Of course, I'm going to be there till
You're
Monday
gonna see.
or Tuesday.
You're gonna be there.
Yeah, I mean,
You're gonna help them
not?
break down.
Yeah.
I will be at home. Hopefully they'll be streaming it, but because I will watch it. I'd love to. I'm interested to see what it sounds like.
You're already committed to
Yeah.
going back early, huh? Okay. All right.
Oh, absolutely.
Already
Jason Isbell is my. That's my
That's it now. Huh?
closeout
That's your
show.
mic
Get your
drop.
heart out. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm torn. We'll see. No Chapel Road
I'm in it for the
you,
long
though,
haul.
Russ.
I didn't put her down, but I think I do want to see her with, it's another one, we got to go see her, Brian. We got to go check it out. That's another one that we got so many recommendations for.
Yeah,
It's like,
100 yeah,
you
that's
can't ignore it.
I just love the
you know.
brashness and the youthfulness and the angriness of it, and I mean it's not all that way, but there's something that speaks to me about just screw you guys. I'm going to tell you all about it.
I agree.
In
Yeah.
a very, very
Yeah.
pop, performance intensive show, right? Like a little flamboyant. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it a lot.
All right. Which night?
pretty much it, yeah.
Which night, Russ? Are you putting the what is it? And I get it wrong every time. The dragon costume or what is it?
Oh, the dinosaur.
the
Dinosaur?
onesie.
Which night?
The onesie,
When
yeah.
does the onesie come out?
We'll have to look at what the weather's going to do, because if it's too warm, I don't want to wear it. But
It didn't stop you last year.
I never really. No, and that's probably probably not a good idea.
Remember, I was
Speaking of the
I
weather,
was
just
scared to
really,
get death.
really
you were gonna
fast for the next couple of weeks, which when that couple of weeks is over, June is a couple of days away. We are mild in the South right now.
it's
And
gorgeous.
Super
can that
mild, yeah.
mildness hang on for another 3 weeks? I don't know. But if it does, even a little bit, we're talking warmer than it is the last couple of days. Those nights can still get cold. That's the never forget moment that should never be forgotten to be brought up on this show for anybody going, oh, it's blazing hot summer.
It can
Just
get cold.
scorcher. It can be freezing at night. Now, not every year and not even normally, but if it gets you,
Yeah, you got to bring some stuff.
so
That's
could be
that's-
onesie weather
that's
like
what-
crazy
yeah.
for you there.
That's what I'm looking for. I want one chill night of onesie weather.
Man.
or
That's
the low is going to be 79.
Right. Yeah. We've had both.
Exactly. If Bonnaroo was this weekend, my
You'd be
God,
cold,
you'd be cold, but it's gorgeous. But also the pollen for you folks who are not used to it, it's going to kill you, and you're going to think
It'll be-
you're
it'll be
dying,
gone
and
by
you don't
June.
know why.
Yeah, the pollen will be gone.
Pollen
by
will be
June.
gone. But
I hope so.
all right, guys, man, we're right at almost 2 hours. But I think it's a great show. I think it's
Yeah, I
good
think we got it
information. Thanks to Kevin. That one came out of nowhere. Russ, good picks.
Thank you.
I can't wait for July when we look back and say, all right, Bryan, Russ, these were your picks. Who did
Here's
you
all
actually
my big,
see?
fat red X's.
Who did you actually
I
see?
didn't
No, that's a
get
good
to.
point.
Nobody.
I don't think we've ever done a follow up from the picks
Yeah, we
because it's
haven't.
like, okay, here's who we picked. Now
We're
who did we
doing that. 'Cause
Actually, see?
it's like the NFL draft. We can talk about it all day long before it starts. What we need to talk about is what happens down the road.
actually
That's what
happened.
really
Yeah.
matters. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a fun follow up. So, all right, anything else, guys? I think this was fun.
Think it covers
Gosh,
it all.
Yeah, we went through a lot. Yeah, good show.
All right, thank you guys for listening. Like, share, do all that. Tell your friends. If you're going
And
to
Barry,
Bonnaroo,
your picks are next
my
week,
picks
right?
will be next week. I don't know
Okay.
what else we'll talk about. I'm thinking about maybe doing kind of a review of all the merch. So maybe you guys can pull
Good
out.
idea.
We talked about it a little bit. It's been, we've done Bonnaroo is 22 years. So there's a lot of bandanas. There's a lot of merch. I've got a lot of it in my basement.
Little show and tell action.
Maybe, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Maybe we'll do some of
get
that.
some stuff.
The good stuff, the good, bad, and the ugly. Maybe. All right.
Sure.
All right. Love you guys. Thanks. See you
All right, see
guys
ya.
next week.
See ya.
Consequence Podcast Network.